Welcome back to The Connected Athlete. I'm here with Elke Parker. Today we're going to talk about life skills. And this topic seems like something that would be very logical and I guess very basic. However, I do think that a lot of athletes lack some of the basic life skills that can get them to a point where they could look after themselves and be a little bit more self-sufficient whilst they're away. When I'm talking to kids about looking after themselves, some of the questions that I ask them are, who gets your uniform ready for you? Who fills your water bottle? Who puts your lunch together? How do your clothes get washed? What are the things that you're doing to help yourself learn some of the important life skills? I think what happens is parents are time poor. Often they're both working and they're sending kids here, there, and everywhere for their sport and school or music or whatever it might be that is outside of school hours as well. And it's easier for us as parents to actually do everything so that we know that it's going to get done and we don't need to be following up and making sure that everything's done. And I completely understand that from a parenting point of view. The thing that we see in a lot of our athletes is once they get into teenage years, they come to training and they say, oh, mum forgot my water bottle, or mum forgot my training shirt, or it's always someone else's fault that they haven't been able to bring what they need to bring. I don't have my mouth guard because mum didn't put it in my bag. One of the things we try and instill in the athletes that are in our programs is accountability and taking responsibility for those things that they have easy control over. They should be able to pack their shoes, pack their mouth guard, pack their water bottle, pack any equipment that they need to take with them to make sure that they are responsible. So if they turn up without it, then they think a little bit more about, oh, I forgot my water bottle. I'll need to remember that next time. And those skills develop over time. And I've certainly seen a lot of athletes who get to a point where they're leaving home and they have to go and live independently or live with others or live on campus at university. And all of a sudden they have to learn some life skills. How do I wash my clothes? How do I cook a meal? How do I pay a bill? If I don't pay a bill, what happens? And they find that really hard to adjust into that new lifestyle. So one of the things that I really like to see is kids taking on that responsibility of things around the house and learning those life skills so that they can go off into university or go away and be a full-time athlete or go overseas to live or whatever it might be, and it reduces the anxiety of that change. Having said that, it can be a very frustrating process for parents and coaches even, giving that responsibility over to the athlete or your child at the time, because it will take longer. It will take failed attempts to get that process happening, and that can take time and it does need patience. But I know as a coach and someone who works with athletes regularly, it's really nice to see kids taking that responsibility. One of the things that I really am thankful for from my parents is that there was a lot of things that we were taught to do as a young person and as a young athlete that we were responsible for. So if I went to hockey training and I forgot my stick, mum did not drive home to get my hockey stick. I had to borrow someone else's hockey stick. If I forgot my shoes, I either didn't train or I borrowed someone else's shoes. There was consequences to the actions. It's easy, potentially, for mum or dad to drive home and get those things, but I wouldn't have learnt that lesson. I wouldn't have learnt, oh my God, how embarrassing. I've come to hockey training and I haven't bought my stick. Of all the things that I need to remember, how can I forget my hockey stick? So having those little moments where there's consequences to those actions leads to me thinking about that again. So the next time I go to training, I think, oh, I forgot my hockey stick last time. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't forget my shoes the next time or my socks or my water bottle or whatever it might be, but it takes me through those processes of learning. Sometimes when I've been coaching teams or been involved with a group of athletes and we might be doing an education session with them, I'll actually take them through an exercise that asks them what are they responsible for. So they have to list the things that they're responsible for every time they go to training or every time they go to a game, or what are they responsible for taking to school? All of those things helps me understand how much that athlete takes responsibility for what they have to take and what they have to do each day. Another area that I have noticed over probably the last decade is food preparation. A lot of our young athletes don't know how to put together a basic snack or food that they can be responsible for before training or after training or during a carnival. All of those things need to be taught to our athletes. It's not hard for them to put together a fruit salad or put a yogurt and a piece of fruit together, or make a simple salad or a salad sandwich or something that is really easy. Giving our kids those basic skills about food preparation, one, takes the responsibility away from parents and puts the responsibility back on the athlete, but it also empowers them. They can put together a meal that is their own, and as long as we have guidelines around what is good for us and what is not so good for us, then it's really great that they can come home and potentially make themselves an afternoon snack before they go to training, rather than go to that training having not done any of that because they just don't have the skills to do it.
We live in the world of air fryers, and I talk about that with a lot of parents and ask them whether they have an air fryer and whether they've taught their kids to use an air fryer because they're so safe.
Air fryers has been a godsend to most parents in terms of being able to provide their kids with very simple snacks and very easy to use. Simple things like preparing their own food can really make a big difference in an athlete. And it also gets them thinking about what it is that they are eating. Some athletes might then move further and further into expanding that food preparation and having a look at other things that they might be able to prepare. One of the things we suggest is, as athletes get older, maybe they're responsible for one night of the week where they get to choose the ingredients. They potentially go and shop to get those ingredients with mum or dad or whoever does the shopping. And then if they're not actually able to go to the shops, give a list to whoever's going shopping to put together the meal that they're having that evening. It doesn't need to be complicated. It can be a piece of meat with some salad. It doesn't need to be gourmet food at this stage. It just needs to be something that they learn to prepare and learn to cook. And it is a really good exercise for the family as well. It's a great night for mum or dad or whoever's looking after you to have a night off. And whilst it may not be great to begin with, the food may not be of the quality that you want it to, but we've all been there, we've all started from scratch, we've all learnt over time, and the only way to get better at things is to try them and get better at them as they go along. Things like washing clothes. I have a lot of athletes that tell me that they have no clothes left, so this is what they had to wear today. Now, that's okay if they're 14 and under, I would say. They can get away with that. But I have 16, 17, 18-year-old athletes that come in and say, Mum hasn't done my washing, or Dad hasn't done the washing, or whoever's responsible for that has not done it. My answer to that is, why can't you do the washing? Why can't you help out at home? And if Mum or Dad or anyone in the family is too busy, why isn't it your role to help out? And I think that's a really important message for our athletes to learn, is being part of a family is like being part of a team. You have a responsibility. You can't just stand outside of the team and expect everything else to happen. You need to be part of it. We encourage our athletes to look at what they could maybe help out with around the house. It might be mowing the lawn. It might be weeding the garden. It might be looking after a sibling. It could be hanging the washing out. All of those things contribute to the family unit. And in a world where family units are very different, everyone has a different type of family unit. Every dynamic within a family can be different. So from a life skills point of view, I think it's fantastic for our athletes to learn how to cook in a basic way, organise their equipment and their uniform each time, whether that's for sport or the school the next day, making their own breakfast in the mornings, cleaning their rooms regularly, helping with the washing up, mowing the lawn, gardening, all of those little things, vacuuming the floor, mopping the floor, cleaning the car, all of those things can help build life skills, and those life skills make them more resilient for the future, so that when they do go away, they have those skills already. They're not trying to take in a new environment and then think, oh my goodness, there's all these other skills and pressures that I have, plus I'm also trying to take on a new sporting environment and a sporting challenge. So whilst it seems really, really simple and obvious that life skills is important, I think it really needs to be something that we focus on with our athletes, because in my experience over the last 20 years, my athletes are less skilled now in their life skills than they've ever been. And that concerns me as a coach and as a mentor and someone who's seeing these kids become quite reliant on others to do things for them. And that is disempowering. So empowering those kids to take these challenges on and learn these new skills is a really important one for both parents and those people around the athletes to ensure that they are taking on these responsibilities. Having a little bit more control over their own environment does involve the life skills side of things, but a big part of that is organisation. So how do we teach them the skills involved in organising their day? And different athletes and different personalities will take on this role differently. For example, I hate packing. Packing creates quite significant anxiety in me every time I have to go away, because I'm not very good at working out what clothes to wear with what other clothes, and what shoes I'll wear, and which shirt goes with which pants. And I can absolutely pack everything to play hockey, and I have no anxiety about that. I can pack my hockey bag, make sure everything is in it, and I go through a step-by-step process. But as soon as it gets to casual gear, anxiety goes through the roof. What if I don't take enough clothes? What if I don't take the right clothes that go with the right pants, which go with the right shoes? What if it's too cold? What if it's too hot? All of those things go through my brain every time I go to pack. So I look at the bag and I get this almost a block, and I think, oh, I won't do that today. And I travel a lot, so this anxiety hits me a lot. So over the years, I have tried different strategies to try and reduce the amount of anxiety that I have traveling, because I do it so much. And I can't say that I'm perfect at it, but it has improved over time. And one of the ways that that has improved is I actually have a list of things that I need to take. So that takes away all of the anxiety about things that aren't clothing based. So it might be, make sure I've got my laptop and my iPad and the chargers for all of those things. And do I have my passport if I'm going overseas? Do I have my anything to do with work? Make sure I pack my phone. Have I got my sunglasses? All of those little things that I need to take everywhere that I go. I actually have a list that I follow to make sure that I have those things packed. The next step for me is to work out what type of environment I'm going to. Now, for instance, if I'm going to Melbourne, it creates this huge anxiety for me, because Melbourne can have 3 seasons in a day. So for me, trying to pack for a location like that, again, increases the anxiety.
Do you ever have the thought that you can just buy whatever you need down there? Because that really helps me. I'll just be like, you know what? I feel like I've forgotten something, but all I need is my phone, a charger. I don't even need that because I can buy it there.
No, you're absolutely right. And having those anxieties is just me not coping with the fact that I'm not good at something. And it's not something that comes easily to me. And I've watched other people pack, and they are so good at it and so organised and so put together with the outfits they've got to wear, what they're putting with it. And I think part of it is because I'm one of those people that goes with the day as to how I feel about what I'm going to wear. So that increases the anxiety. Whereas I know people that know I'm going to wear this Monday morning into evening, and then I'm going to wear this Monday evening, and then I'm going to wear this Tuesday and Tuesday evening, and they'll have these amazing put together outfits. One of my best friends is like that. And I absolutely envy the fact that once she gets to where she's going, she doesn't have to need to worry about anything. Doesn't have to look at her bag and think, ah, geez, I forgot that blue shirt and that actually goes better with these jeans than this other top. So recognizing some of the things that our athletes might need to assist them in getting organized, so getting them through the process of sitting down with them and getting their bag out, and we're going to use soccer as the example. We would go through the process of saying to them, okay, what are the things that you need to go to training and to go to the game? What's the checklist that you need to go through? So make sure you have your boots, you have your socks, you have your shin pads, you have your shirt, you have your shorts, mouth guard, soccer ball if you need one, headgear if you're using that, water bottle, maybe a towel. Those things all need to be checked off and put in the bag or put onto your body in terms of your uniform before you walk out the door. And you may have to keep giving feedback about, have you got this, have you got this, have you got that? But at some stage, we're going to have to let them fail. If they're not learning to be organised, the only way that they might start to take on that responsibility is if they go to training without their boots. I'm not sure how they can go to training without their boots, but some athletes achieve it. Or they go without their mouth guard or water bottle or whatever it might be, so that then the next time you can say to them, what happened last time? What did you forget? So you're going through these processes all the time. And after a while, it becomes very natural to them to remember what to take. And there will be times, I have certainly, and in recent years, forgotten to take my shoes to hockey. Because in the Sunshine Coast, I don't wear my shoes to hockey with my socks. I wear thongs because it's hot. So you don't want to put on your shoes and socks and those sorts of things before you get to training or before you get to hockey. And look, everyone has their own strategies, and I certainly can forget things. So every time I come off the hockey field or off for training or a game, I make sure I put all of the things that I need back in my bag. Empty my water bottle, I put it back in my bag. Take my mouth guard out, wash it, put it back in my mouth guard case. I put my hockey stick back in my bag. I put my shin pads back in my bag. Before I even leave the dugout, I have put everything back in my bag so that I know that next time they're all there. And I must admit, I don't tend to check now that I've done that before I go to hockey in the next time, because I'm very confident that I know that I've done all of those things and made sure that that is my strategy for organisation. Empowering our kids to take responsibility for this sort of thing is fantastic, because it takes the pressure off you as parents, which is great, and it also gives them the ability to go through those processes. Learn, when I forget, I need to now remember. What are the things that I need to do? And then they can carry that on into other parts of their life, particularly if they go into a situation where things have changed. So they're not just at home, they're away with a team or away competing. They need those same processes to go through to be comfortable, to not be racing around worrying about what they've remembered, what they've forgotten, where's this, where's that. All of those things can create lots of anxiety in a new environment. So reducing that anxiety and making sure that they have the strategies and the organisation to cope with that really helps with that transition to the next level of competition. I have certainly been involved with athletes that have to go through the exact same procedure every time they do something. I'm not saying that that is healthy either. I've been away with athletes that if they don't put certain things in their bag at a certain time and go through these processes, they can become very stressed about the fact that they can't go through a certain process. So we don't want it to be a rigid process. We want it to be a very natural process for these athletes to go through. And that ensures that they're confident that they can look after themselves in any environment with regard to getting themselves ready to go.
I think it teeters along the lines of pre-game routine as well. You see a lot of professional players, mainly tennis players. I guess it's probably broadcasted more, so you get to see them actually do it. Nadal has to have his water bottle in specific places, and he has all these pre-game routines, and it kind of teeters along the lines of worrying about it if something goes wrong, like his whole game falls apart. So even watching athletes to see if they're teetering along that line and just being able to manage that is really important as well.
It's a really good point because it can become very stressful and affect a performance if things aren't quite where you want them to be or how you want them to be. I've certainly had athletes in the past where, and tennis is a great one because I've worked a lot in tennis over the years, and I've had an athlete tell me, or more than one athlete, but this particular athlete that I'm talking about was quite talented, and he would play a match and tell me that the guy down the other end isn't supposed to be doing that. And I'd say, what do you mean? He said, well, I've watched the video footage, and when I hit that ball there, he's not supposed to be able to hit that ball back to there. He would spend his whole time thinking about what that athlete down the other end is not supposed to be able to do. And he would get himself all wound up about what the other athlete was doing. So my advice to him was, you can't control what he's doing down the other end. You can watch as many videos as you like, and you can be aware of maybe 80% of the game that they play, but you also need to be flexible enough to know that sometimes he's going to snag a winner or change the game a little bit because of your game. So being able to, I guess, work through that process as well in his brain so that he doesn't get narrowed down in what he can't control. And I guess we're verging on a little bit of that control the controllables, but it is very relevant and it is part of that organisation and life skills as well. Another thing that we can do to help our athletes start to think about what they have and haven't forgotten or what they're responsible for is often parents will, as the child is getting out of the car or going out of the house, yell out certain items. And I've heard it, and we've all heard it. Stick, mouthguard, water bottle, shoes.
Do you have a jumper?
All of those things.
That's my mum's thing.
I think a better way to approach that would be, have you forgotten anything? So that athlete starts to think about, have I forgotten anything? Now, often they'll say immediately, no. Like, how many times do you hear that? Have you forgotten anything? No. Like it's some sort of insult that they may have forgotten something. But having that conversation where it's putting that responsibility back on the athlete to think about, oh, have I forgotten anything? And then as the parent or whoever's dropping them off, if I drive off and you've forgotten something, I'm not coming back. So just take 1 minute to think about, have you got everything and are we right to go to train?
I think with very stubborn kids, I'm coming from my own perspective here and saying, have you forgotten anything? I would say no because I would feel blamed. So you can use language like, do we need anything else? And that involves you and your athlete in a conversation of what have they forgotten rather than what have you forgotten? Because I forget everything and I will instantly just say, nope, with no shoes on in the car.
And no uniform on. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I guess the take-home message for us is we need to empower our athletes more, I think. And this is just my opinion. I find it really interesting. I've been working as an allied health professional for nearly 30 years now, and the thing that I find really interesting about human nature is our ability to put something on someone else. So, for example, when I was working in chronic disease, I would work with a lot of diabetics or people with a lot of complex health conditions. And I would have conversations with them about, how is your diabetes going? And they would say, oh, my doctor looks after that for me. And I would say, but isn't it your diabetes? Should you not be taking responsibility for it and maybe checking your sugar levels? And, oh, no, my doctor just looks after that. I don't need to worry about it. And it used to really shock me that people could give over their whole chronic disease to another person and not take responsibility or take an interest in the actual condition itself and what they can control. And I think that can resonate in lots of different things. We can put things over to other people. For example, when someone forgets something, whether that is an adult or a young athlete, sometimes it's immediately someone else's fault. Oh, yeah, mum forgot it, or oh, yeah, my partner forgot to drop it off, or whatever it might be. We can put these things onto people very easily and take no accountability for ourselves. And I think it was very true what you said before, Elke, about when people forget things, in a lot of cases, people immediately don't want it to be their fault. And it's almost like it's a reflection on them that they've forgotten it. People are going to forget things. No one's perfect. And just taking it on board and going, oh, yeah, I forgot it. I'm not quite sure why that is so difficult in this day and age, is to accept that you may have not got everything 100% right. No one gets anything 100% right. The only thing that needs to occur is, if you forgot it, try not to forget it next time and try and get better at remembering whatever it is that you're trying to improve over time. That's part of being organised and identifying your strengths and weaknesses. And everyone has different strengths and weaknesses when it comes to organisation. We've all worked with people that are really highly organised and some that are less organised, and then there's everyone in between. Learning from the people that are really organised is something that you need to keep an eye on and really look at some of the things that they do that you might not be doing. And then potentially helping people that aren't as organised, because it tends to be partly a personality trait. People that are a little bit more relaxed and go with the flow and whatever, they're probably less inclined to want to organise their life because they're a little bit more relaxed. People that are a little bit more intense or a little bit more driven, or whatever it might be, they tend to want to be organised. They want to know what's coming next and what to prepare for, and then you have everyone in between. So often really organised people get frustrated with really disorganised people, and disorganised people get really frustrated with organised people, because organisers are trying to organise the disorganised people, and the disorganised people probably don't even want to be organised. So being aware of those different personality traits and how you might gently change some of the things that your athletes or your staff or your friends or whatever, family members, whatever it might be, gradually implementing change. One of the main things that we want you to take away from today is recognising some of the things that our athletes can do from a young age. So whether that be by the time they're 11, maybe they can pack their own bag, or at least be aware of what might need to go into their bag. By the time they're 13 or 14, are they able to make some basic snacks and look after themselves with their snack food? By the time they're 16, 17, 18, they probably need to be able to be responsible for their uniform, to make sure it has been washed or wash it themselves. They can help around the house. They can do all of the things that they need to do, so that by the time they're 17 and 18 and leaving home to go off and do university or a trade or move away from home completely, go and pursue their athletic focus as well. So all of those things, looking at how we can help. One of the things that we can do is start them with checklists. Checklists are really good because they start to identify the process of how we can get through something. And once the checklist has been ticked off, we know in our minds that that's been done. And then that checklist becomes automated and we go through the same processes as an automation. And then over time, are there things that we need to remember to do? So Thursday night after training, I know that I need my playing uniform for Saturday. Has it been washed? Do I need to ask mum if it has been washed? Where is it? If it hasn't been washed, then I need to go through the process of making that happen. Or if it is washed and it's in my room, it's not on the floor all screwed up, maybe half pushed under my bed, I've now got it folded up in my room or put away in a drawer or whatever it might be. And Friday, I start to bring that out and put it with my bag with all of the other things. So just having those processes involved. And then gently encouraging our athletes to become more independent and more self-sufficient in that space, which empowers them. It really gives them a sense of achievement that they can look after themselves. And why wouldn't we want our athletes to have that feeling that they know that they've got themselves to training, they've got all the things that they need? That is a great training for life. I just want to let people know that this podcast is based on a lot of experience in the industry and some of the conversations and questions that I've had throughout that career. And by no means is it specific advice, and you can take what you need from the information. And we hope that it starts to allow people to ask more questions or consider certain situations in a different way.